kind enough to join us in advance of a Monday night football game against the San Francisco 49ers, the HC of the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Rich. How are you doing?
I am doing better for seeing you on my screen. What are your 2 cents on your team right now entering this big game? What do you got for me? Writ
Yeah, I
large.
think I think right now, we're really in a place where we're trying to use some of the early adversity from the season. Some of the things from a standpoint of self-inflicted wounds that caused us to have a harder time winning football games early on. We're trying to stack, hopefully, another week this week where we're able to win the turnover battle, where we're able to do some of the little things, but also continue to improve, continue to get more comfortable offensively, without Justin being out here for, a cluster of games here in the middle of our season, and continuing to just build weekly by what we're doing daily to try to attack that the right way. And we've got a heck of a challenge. Kyle's bringing his, team to the Twin Cities, and they're fantastic in every phase of the game. And Kyle is, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in our league for, multitude of reasons. But Rich, we've got to play a really good game to have a chance to beat this football team.
And then in terms of obviously knowing Kyle very well, and knowing the system very well, and knowing the tree all that well in this league, we refer to copycat for sure, not to pry and get details that you're not willing to give anyway. But anything that you saw from the Browns that you picked up on tape, film, anything like that you might be able to utilize on Monday night defensively?
Yeah, there might be some schematical things we can do, but you got to give the Browns a lot of credit. They played a very physical football game, which is the number one thing you would normally describe the 49ers as, is first and foremost just how physical, how hard they play. And that's a week in and week out thing for 17 plus weeks, really ever since Kyle's been there as the head coach. And they're so talented that quite honestly, Rich, you can try to maybe look at that tape and replicate some of the things that Cleveland either did on defense or offense or in the kicking game. But really, it's got to be a mentality thing. It's got to come down to, really beyond the X's and O's. It's how you play every single snap against this football team that matters.
Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings head coach, here on the Rich Eisen Show. And then what about the fact that some of their stars are hurt and you have no idea if they're playing? How do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, we got to, first and foremost, you're preparing for the schemes and the great schemes offensively and defensively with their kicking game as well, that you've got to do your job as a coach, really diagnosing and trying to equip your players for those things. But we also have to get our team ready to play as if every player on their team was healthy, and if the plan or schematics would change based upon a player on one of the a player on one side of the ball not being available, we have to be able to adjust if that's what is best for our team. But we've got to have a mindset that all of those guys are going to play. We've got to prepare accordingly and make sure we have maybe our best week of preparation we've had all season.
And I had Brock Purdy on the program yesterday, fair and balanced. Thanks for you providing the balance here for this game. When you see him and just in the position and knowing what it takes in this league and seeing what his draft status was and what he's doing right now, what leaps to mind when you see that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think, it'd be easy to look back on where he was drafted and start talking about him in a way of just how much he's been able to overcome this, that, and the other. But I look at it a different way. When I turn on the tape, you see a quarterback that is playing the position, sees the field, total command of that offense, which, my background of just kind of studying and learning and talking to, whether it's Kyle or anybody else, he's got a lot on his plate. And for a rookie last year to be able to do what he did and then to continue to just build on positive performances throughout his early part of his career, it's very, very impressive. But then, you realize very quickly it's consistent, and he's going to be the same guy every single week, which has been commanding an offense, distributing the ball to, some of the best skill players in our league. And more importantly than anything, just his way of getting them into the right play, making checks, audibles, things for a young player. that you can see come to life on the tape and makes them an incredible challenge to try to defend.
Kevin O'Connell here on the Rich Eisen Show, Minnesota Vikings head coach. A few minutes with him before the rest of this weekend plays out and finishes up with Monday Night Football, Vikings 49ers. Kirk Cousins and his status with the team has been much discussed. Shows like this, shows around the country. What are your 2 cents on his no trade clause and what your team would be willing to do? Possibly any thoughts on that front, Kevin?
Yeah, I really, Rich, I don't have any thoughts, as it pertains to any of those kind of outside the building speculations. I just know my dialogue daily, minute to minute with Kirk, his preparation for our games, his performance so far this year. Kirk and I came into this season in complete lockstep that I wanted it to be the best season that maybe he's ever had in this league. And that's saying something with all the things that Kirk Cousins has been able to accomplish, as a quarterback in the NFL. And I think he's gone about it from the very beginning of the offseason program through training camp and each and every week as, one of our core leaders, clearly our leader on offense, from a standpoint of getting us, playing and play out to where we want to be schematically, but also just his presence, his overall positivity that he attacks everything with, unbelievable preparation and routine that goes into a Kirk Cousins game week. And he's been ultra consistent and really our dialogue has not touched on anything outside of that throughout the whole season. And Kirk knows how I feel. I've really felt about him from the first time I was able to coach him in Washington. And it's been a really great experience for me to have him here, over the first 20, however many games it's been now, 24, 25 games. And, I hope we get to play a lot more together.
Well, that drum beat only got lighter after Justin Jefferson got hurt. I mean, so just one more crack at it here. How do you handle the outside noise? How do you deal with such things, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm never going to be somebody that ignores some of those things because I know our players may be hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
They may be discussing it. I've been in that locker room before. So I'm going to over communicate. I'm going to try to give our guys, equip them with my thought process and my mentality. And then I'm going to circle it all the way back always to controlling the things that we can control, our preparation, our daily habits, what we do to, kind of empower and uplift each other. And my job as the head coach and play caller and, really wanting to be there for 53 guys and 16 guys on the practice squad is a full-time thing where I don't have a lot of time, to be quite honest, Rich,
mm-hmm.
to spend, assessing each individual thing that might be out there from whatever source that may come from. But I also respect the fact that people have jobs to do and those types of conversations, considering some of the factors of our season. I understand that as well. But ultimately, my job is to get us ready to go each week and make sure the Minnesota Vikings are continuing to progress and improve because the results, quite honestly, haven't been where we wanted early on in this season, and there's a lot of football out in front of us.
Now, does it piss you off that people even suggest you might throw in the towel, Coach?
You know what? It does not
Okay.
because, like I said, if I was spending time and energy being upset about those things, that's taken away from things that are far more important with my staff and my players.
How is Justin doing that you're willing to share?
Yeah, he's doing really well. He was just, we just got in from our walkthrough not long ago, and he was working over on a side field. And, I know he feels, maybe a lot better than they initially thought he would, just from an overall feeling standpoint. But it doesn't surprise me. He's one of the most gifted special athletes I've ever been around. But it's very important that he, commits, which he has, to the rehab process. He's still in every meeting as we're installing plays, and I'm sitting up in front of the room still feeling like he's engaged as ever and sits right there next to Jordan Addison. And it's just awesome to see the leadership role and kind of that mentorship that he's had with Jordan really since he first stepped foot in our facility. So all of those things are still ongoing. The only thing that we're missing right now is having the best receiver in football in our offense. So we're trying to overcome that. We're confident in our group. But it does give me a lot of confidence knowing that Justin's all in on a daily basis.
Yeah, I have Jordan Addison in fantasy, Kevin, so I'd target him. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? There's
Smart pick by you.
Well, I mean, I've got a keen sense, and there's an I in Rich Eisen, so I literally just said that to a head coach in the National Football League in the minutes I have with you.
That's good stuff, man.
Is that a reason why you IR'd Justin, though, as you knew that he'd probably want to come back sooner, and you kind of saving him? Make sure.
I just think outside of trying to diagnose and assess injuries myself, knowing the timeline that we thought it would be based upon multiple opinions, it just made sense to allow him to with the short-term IR being what it is. Anytime it's around that 4-week range at a minimum, and you can use that as a tool to not only help your roster maybe elsewhere in that receiver room during that time, you can also use that as a tool to make sure that we're all just being smart about what's best for Justin and his health and his future of doing the things that he's done in this league and will continue to do. But at the same time, knowing how competitive he is, and it means a lot to him to have a C on his chest for the first time in his career. And I think all of that leads you to believe that when the time's right, Justin's going to be back out there for us, and I can't wait to have him.
Coach, appreciate the time, truly. I know you're busy Friday before a big Monday night game in your season. I don't take it for granted. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, always appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Rich.
You bet. That's Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings head coach, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.